Questions for Nika.
And so every time we had intercourse, it was unprotected and it was every single time. I can't even, when I look back at it, I don't think we had intercourse vaginally one time. But I actually ended up getting another boyfriend, like an actual boyfriend this time. And I actually contracted, well, that's what I thought. I contracted HSV2 from him, genital herpes. And that's been the main thing that's caused me so many complications in my life. I mean, more than HIV, honestly. I always told myself, once I feel secure enough and stable enough to have the protection that I need for myself and my family, then I might feel safe enough to put his face out there. There we go. Oops. Okay. Let's turn this up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you really good.
Same.
I want to thank you for being here. Although I do not have HIV, HIV is a cause that is really near and dear to my heart. So I definitely wanted you on the platform to tell your story. So yeah, here we are.
You guys will have to bear with me. It's been a minute since I've told this story on my channel, and some things I like mentally block out subconsciously just because I don't want to think about it. But let's get into it. This I was diagnosed in 2016. Start this by saying I love my father. Me and my father, now we have a very close relationship, but growing up, we butt heads a lot. We were not very close. And at the time, I was seeking male validation in the wrong ways. Growing up in high school, I did not get a lot of attention from men. I was bullied a lot by the guys that I used to like. So when I got a little bit of attention from men, that's when I started to feel like, okay, like let me just talk to this guy, this guy, this guy. And, anybody who gave me attention, it just boosted me up. So also at the time, looking for male attention, while my dad was working out of the country, I started not researching, I guess you could say, researching strippers in Atlanta, stripper vlogs, all that stuff. I became like obsessed to a point I was working I was working at a Mexican food chain at the time. I won't say the name. And my manager that worked there actually used to be a stripper himself. He was a male. He was a
Oh,
male. And he used to be a stripper. And I was telling him, oh, I'm interested in, I've been looking, dibbling, dabbling. He was like, oh, you should just do it. You should just do it. And I was like, a manager telling me to do it. But at the time, I was still going inside of strip clubs, just hanging out at the bars, going into smoke, going into drink, and just kind of get the feel of the strip clubs. But I still wasn't fully comfortable. And in that time is when I came across the man who gave me HIV in the club. He was at the back bar of the first club that I went to audition at. And he was sitting at the back bar, and I remember striking up a conversation because he was very flashy. He had on all the chains, okay? He was very muscular, older, and I won't say I would seek out older men, but older men were drawn to me at the time. So I kind of just was like, I was going with it. I was like, okay, he got money, he got chains on, let's talk. And so didn't know what I was getting myself into. Was talking to him. I was like, I'm interested in dancing. I'm not really sure. And of course, he encouraged it, of course. And so that's when we started a relationship, I guess you could say. A relationship, but I guess you can call it really tricking because he just paid for a lot of stuff and we were being intimate, and that was what it was. I had genuine feelings. I'm not sure if he had genuine feelings for me, but I know at the time I genuinely had feelings for him. And so every time we had intercourse, it was unprotected and it was every single time. I can't even, when I look back at it, I don't think we had intercourse vaginally one time. Yeah, it's crazy you asked me. I never questioned it. I never questioned it because the thing is, so I was very hypersexual at the time, but with the person that I liked. So since I was with him, I was like, I don't care what it is. I'm gonna just do what he wants to do because I was the pleaser. I was always the pleaser. I was always the overgiver, the pleaser. So I never questioned. I was like, this what he want? I don't mind it, whatever. That was my mindset. I am 99% sure, 99.99% sure that he was DL. Just from his past history and looking at his past, I actually had a picture. This is how naive I was. I actually had a picture of his ID, and I never Googled him. I never tried to look him up until I contracted HIV from him. And then I was like, let me look up some more about him. But at the time, I wasn't looking up nothing. He also, anytime he picked me up to go to the strip club, he had a male friend at the front. I never sat in the front seat either. Let me just say this. I never sat, look, everybody gonna be looking at me crazy. Anytime he picked me up to go to the club, I never sat in the front seat. I remember this man. It was a dark skin. They were both very muscular men. They were the two in the front seat. They were always on phone calls together, always talking about. I would always ask him, like, what do y'all do, or whatever. He was like, oh, it's just business stuff. The thing also was, I had all my stripper stuff with me. So I had my big bag, I had my shoes, and all this stuff. So I was like, I need more space anyway. So I was just people pleasing, not thinking about it, just letting it go past my head pretty much. So that was me in the back seat, just cruising along, getting driven to this club, this club. I worked in like a lot of clubs in Atlanta, almost all of them that you could name. And so there was one day, I don't even remember when the symptoms started. I can pinpoint like around, I know what month it started. It started right before my birthday in 2016. I started having symptoms that were it started with night sweats. So my entire bed, I would wake up and my entire bed was drenched in sweat. I'm talking through the mattress pad to everything. And it was just, I had to take a shower. And I was like, that was weird. And so the night sweats started, but the main concern was one night I could not walk up my stairs. I had made dinner in the kitchen and I was going back up to my room to eat my food. And I remember I felt so weak. I just stopped in the middle of the staircase and I just screamed out to my sister and my mom. And I was like, I cannot walk up the stairs. And they were like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know. I've been having night sweats. I can't move. I can't walk up the stairs. I feel weak. And I've always been a very athletic person. So that was not normal. Also, mind you, at the time, my family still didn't know I was stripping. So I was in and out the club. Like I was just being reckless. Okay. So I was in and out the club, sneaking around with this man. So he was picking me up from my parents' house. Okay. Sneaking around, going to the club. And this is when the symptoms started. So the symptoms started, I would say, May, about around May, June, and we were messing around. We started messing around beginning of that year. So I guess around February, March, around that time, we started messing around, and then the symptoms started early May, June, and then I was fully diagnosed right before my birthday in July. So yeah, that's how that happened. I went to the first emergency room and they just brushed it off as a high fever. They couldn't find anything and they just told me to pretty much take ibuprofen, watch the fever, and just go home and wait it out. So my mom really didn't feel that, but she was like, okay. But when the fever just kept increasing, I kept sweating more. I had a fever of like 103. Our mom was like, nah, because she used to be a nurse. She was like, no, I'm going to another hospital. Went to another hospital. They did a bunch of tests again. They did every single test both times, not an HIV test. They asked me if I was being sexually active, but they did not do an HIV test for whatever reason. And so they sent me back home again from this hospital. They said, okay, wait out the fever again. We're going to give you, they didn't give me any antibiotics, but they gave me more ibuprofen, told me to wait it out. I waited it out again. And during this time of waiting it out is when I got a phone call from one of my sisters. And I'm pretty close with all my sisters, but some of them, I'm the youngest. So we're not super close. They got their own things going on. And this particular sister is a nurse. She delivers babies. And I remember she called me in the middle of the day, and we don't talk like that on the phone, so it was weird. She just calls me and she says, she didn't say nothing else. All she said was, when was the last time you were tested for HIV? That's all she said to me. I remember. And it was because she knew I was being reckless at the time. She knew. And so my heart just sank. As soon as she asked me that, I remember my heart sinking and I just had an inner knowing. Like it was just like I already accepted my fate at that time, if that makes sense, because it was just something in my head clicked. I said, "You've been having unprotected sex with this one man. Your symptoms just randomly started. Like it has to be." So I started Googling stuff, but then I had to stop myself. I said, "Just wait till you see a doctor." So that's when I went up to my mom and I was just, me and my mom are like this. So I just went up to her. I said, "Hey, my sister, she called me. Let's go to the infectious disease doctor because that's what my sister recommended." And my mom was like, "Okay." So me and my mom, we get to the doctor, the infectious disease doctor. He asked me, "Have you ever been tested for HIV?" And I was like, "Nope." He was like, "Well, we're going to test you." When they tested me, this is where everything was, oh my goodness, so stressful. The first time they tested me for HIV, it came back as a false positive. And I was like, "Well, what does that mean?" And he said, "Well, a false positive can mean a lot of things. It could have been a mess up at the lab. It could have been this. It could have been that. But what it means pretty much is we have to wait to retest you again in 4 weeks." And I was already gearing up in my head. In that time of waiting, I remember I wasn't crashing out, but I was slick crashing out. Like I remember I was already smoking a lot at the time, but I was drinking a lot, going out a lot, still dancing at the club. Okay, trying to get this out of my mind. And so the second test comes back, and it's a positive for sure. And he said what happened was I had an acute case. And an acute case of HIV means that your symptoms show up within about 2 months of contracting the virus or whatever. So since it was an acute case, that's why it showed up false positive because it was so early in my blood system. So there it was, positive, positive. And in the doctor's office, I didn't cry. In the doctor's office, I kind of just accepted it. I kind of was just like, this is my reality. What are we going to do next? What are the next steps? And my mom wasn't crying. The only time I started crying was when I had to tell my dad. In one moment. Because I didn't want to disappoint him. I knew he was already going to be disappointed because I was a stripper and everything on top of that, but I didn't want to disappoint him. And so I remember my mom had told my dad we needed to talk to him about something when we got home that day. And I told him, and I remember him breaking down. And within that next week, me and my entire family went to the doctor's office, and my dad met my doctor, and they were very supportive. As disappointed as they were, and as like heartbroken as they were very supportive of being there for me, which I'm so grateful for, because I know so many people are disowned by their family and everything. So, who a blessing it was that I needed that at that time. I did need that, and I was very surprised because me and my dad weren't always close, like I said, but at that time I felt like it kind of brought us a little closer because he knew I needed him. And so after that, I just started my medicine. My doctor actually gave me the option. My doctor said, "Well, you have the option to not start your medicine right now, or you can start it." And I said, "Give me the medicine," because it felt like my body was being drained of everything. Like it was just like the life was being sucked out of me. I was very weak. Like imagine like having COVID or the flu, but like times 10, like times 10. Like you just cannot move, you can't get out of bed. I couldn't walk up the stairs. Like that's how bad it was. So I started my medicine, and I remember after I started my medicine, a lot of people ask if I had side effects. A main side effect I had was diarrhea. That was the main side effect. I remember it was terrible stomach pains. It almost felt like my body was like rearranging itself in a sense. If that makes sense, it was like rearranging itself, getting back to normal. And I think after about 3 months being on my medicine is when I started to finally feel normal again. I don't remember how many months exactly after when they retested my blood to come back as undetectable, but Eventually, I was undetectable, and then I just kept on my regimen, kept on seeing my doctor. So, as far as dealing with my HIV, it's been fine. I did during the pandemic, I was scared out of my mind because in my head, I'm immunocompromised. And I actually was on unemployment because I couldn't go to work. I could go to work, but I told myself, I'm not going to work. I'm not leaving the house because if I get anything, I felt like I was going to die. Like for real. That's how I felt. So I didn't want to leave the house. I just stayed in the house. I told my mom I wanted to get on unemployment. So I did. And so I was good during that time. I actually did end up getting COVID, but this is later down the line. And I was good. It was almost just like a cold, thankfully. But I actually ended up getting another boyfriend, like an actual boyfriend this time. And I actually contracted, well, that's what I thought. I contracted HSV2 from him, genital herpes. And that's been the main thing that's caused me so many complications in my life. I mean, more than HIV, honestly. The pain, the it was I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, except for the man who gave me HIV, probably. But yeah. So I fully stopped dancing. So it's crazy. I went back to stripping at least 3 times, but I fully stopped dancing in had to be around 2022, 2021, 2022. And I remember I was sitting at the bar one day smoking a 3-5, and I was watching all these girls go to VIP. And this was the time, it was like in the at the midst of the end of the pandemic. So girls were still in this, it was like a TikTok group or something that like blew up stripping. Like it was like all these new strippers were coming in the club, didn't know what they was doing. They was just sleeping with men in the VIP. It was like a lot. And they were taking all the customers, all the good customers that was actually paying for dances. So remember I was sitting there, wasn't getting no dances. And I remember I was just sitting at the bar asking God in my head, I said, I need an out. Like I cannot keep doing this. I can't keep going in the same cycle, coming back to the club, leaving the club, coming back. I was drained. I was tired. I said, drinking every single day is not good for my immune system, having HIV. None of this is good for me at all. And so the next day, I remember I was still Ubering at the time because I still wasn't making enough money to sustain myself. So the next day, I start Ubering. And as soon as I start driving, I see a double rainbow. Was something in me that it just clicked, and I said, that's God right there talking to me. And I had got out the car to go into Kroger, and there was an old woman smoking outside, and she was like, isn't that just so beautiful how we can just be in a hurry to get here in life, and we miss the little beautiful moments like this. And I was like, yeah. And the next day I go out Ubering because I didn't go to the club the next day. The next day I go out Ubering and I see another double rainbow in the same area. And I said, God, I ain't going back. And that's when I just told myself, I'm gonna just start serving. I'm gonna just figure out something else. And I just figured it out from there. I didn't know what I was doing. I figured it out. I didn't directly confront him. What had happened was, so at the old club that I used to dance at, where I actually met him at the club. So there was an alternative stripper that we kind of connected because I have tattoos, she had tattoos. And I remember I was talking to her one day and I was like, hey, just want to let you know, if you ever see this man standing at the back bar, don't talk to him. Like I was giving her the heads up, like, hey, don't talk to this man if you ever see him at the back bar. I told her what happened to me and all this. I thought everything was cool. I thought everything was cool. I thought she was going to naive me. Strippers never keep any secrets, right? So give it about, it was like at least 30 minutes into the shift after me telling her that everybody knew. Kid you not. The house mom, the DJ, everybody, it was like everybody was in the back room walking back and forth like, oh, Phoenix told us this, Phoenix, blah, blah, blah. Phoenix got HIV, Phoenix got it. And everybody found out. So after everyone found out, turns out the house mom was friends with the guy who gave me HIV. And she comes up to me and she's in this mindset like, oh, I don't believe you. He wouldn't do that. Nah, he ain't got that. She must have got it from somebody. Like everybody was in denial. Everybody was like, him? He could never. Personal trainer, real estate person. Him? No, no way. Phoenix is lying. She got it from such. She a hoe. She probably got it from. And I'm like, okay, y'all ain't gotta believe me, whatever. So I was thankfully I was strong enough that I made it through the whole shift. I don't know how I made it through the whole shift, probably drinking and smoking, but I made it through the shift. I just ignored it. I blocked it out. I just let them keep talking. I remember the house mom caught me in the back room and she said, just tell me like what happened. I told her what happened and she was like, really? Like, and then she was like, I don't believe you still. And I was like, well, why did you ask me if you ain't gonna believe me? So after I told her, then I remember the DJ that was there. He was actually a son of an owner of a very big club here in Atlanta. I won't say the name, um, but his name is the name of the club. So he asked me, and I told him too. Nobody believed me. I kid you not. Nobody in that club believed me. Down. So I was just frustrated after that. And after that, that is when that girl, the alternative girl that I told, she knew him too. It was like everybody in that club knew him already. I was last of the game. I guess I was the last one to die. So she ends up telling him that I told everybody at the club that he gave me HIV and that I was warning other girls. So he ends up texting me that night. So the fast forward, I end up getting off my shift, my day shift. I come home, he texts me and he goes, so I hear you're telling everyone I gave you HIV. And I say, yeah, because you did. And he was like, well, you never talked to me about it. And I said, because I didn't want to talk to you about it. Like, you know what I mean? At the time, when I was first diagnosed, I didn't tell him that he gave it to me. I still was trying to get money out of him. Is that not crazy? Yeah, I still was trying to get money out of him. I did not tell him. I was like, if this man gonna give me HIV, I'ma still try and run him for his money. That was my sick mindset. Like I was not like, get away from this man. So after he found out, he was like, well, you telling everyone I gave you HIV. Well, whatever. When's the next time we gonna have sex?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. At that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Not myself, but one of my regular customers who went in that club all the time. He came in one night shift. I remember he came in drunk off coke. He was lit, livid. He came in about pushing chairs and tables over. He said, where's so and so, so and so, and so and so? This man is usually up in the club chilling, talking to girls and stuff. And I was like, who are you talking about? And then he showed me a picture and I was like, I know him. And at this time, that regular customer, he didn't know I had HIV. He didn't know at the time. But when he showed me his picture, I was like, hold on now. He said one of my girls got the package from him. And I hate when people call it the package. Just say HIV. He said got HIV from him. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I'm looking for this motherfucker. I'm looking for a lot of women ask me if I feel bad for not like publicizing his face, like, and just putting him out there to save more girls. And that is the purpose of my YouTube channel that I came out with because I felt like if I actually was real and raw and told my story and how I was hypersexual, how I got in that, toxic cycle, if I was actually real and raw with my audience, that it would save another girl's life to be safer with their bodies, to use protection. And I felt like if you were to watch my story and still go out and have unprotected sex, why? So another reason I didn't put his face out publicly was because he knew where I lived. He knew where my parents lived. He knew what my parents looked like. He knew everything about me. To this day, I still think he had like my actual ID. He saw what my ID looked like. So I just did not want to put my family's safety at risk over a mistake that I made. It was just very scary for me at the time, but I felt also coming out with that video could have been just enough for one girl to at least. I had so many girls message me after I came out with that video And I was sending his picture out to those women that asked me. But I had to stop at a certain point because I was thinking, like, who is really messaging me? Because my trust has been messed up from an ex stripper. My trust is a little. I didn't trust a lot of them, and then sometimes I would send his picture, and some of them women would respond back with something nasty, like, "See, and this is why you need to put his face out there, and see, you not even doing the right thing." Like it would be like they would be nice. I send a picture and they say something rude. I always told myself, once I feel secure enough and stable enough to have the protection that I need for myself and my family, then I might feel safe enough to put his face out there. So that means I can have a security guard on my premises. Like I'm serious, like actually having in-home security, having security dogs, having like stuff laid out for me for my safety and my family's safety. Hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In his car, he had weapons. He had enough money to um provide stuff for himself, safety wise, guns, the things he was involved with. And then when I Googled him in his past, he had about 4 or 5 mug shots. And I was like, oh, he's a repeat offender of other things in the jail. I don't know who he knows in the jail to send after me. That was my mind just went all over the place. He was in his late 30s, early 40s. And I was early 20s, had to be 2021 at the time.
Mm.
Yeah, so it was a rough last year. So my game plan moving back home with my parents is going back to school. First and foremost, tomorrow I actually have orientation to become a ultrasound technician. The
Oh,
first steps, first steps coming,
congratulations.
thank you, to becoming an ultrasound technician. I've always loved babies and the birthing process and all of that. So that is my main goal, is becoming an OBGYN centered ultrasound technician, as well as just saving right now. I've been doing Uber Eats right now. I somewhat don't want to get a 9 to 5 before I start schooling so I can understand how my classes are going to work, because I will have to drive to lab classes and all of that. So, really, right now, I want to buckle down on just saving my money here and there, as well as going back to school so I can create an actual long-term stable foundation, because I haven't finished school. All of my sisters have finished school. I have not finished school yet, and that is my main goal. I'm right there at the end of my schooling. I'm like technically a junior. Every time I went to college, I would drop back out. So, and start back stripping again. So this is like my first time actually finishing something through. So that is my main goal right now. Yeah. My pole business, I teach pole classes as well. So I've been trying to get my body back right, because since last year I was in and out of the hospital with my HSV2 complications. I have not been able to work out and get my body right. So really I want to center on getting back into my pole content, my pole dancing, because it makes me feel alive. It makes me feel, mentally sane. So that's really what I've been focusing on the side. Is That's like my side hobby, my side passion is pole dancing still, but not stripping, just feeling confident in my body so that I can actually, feel healthy and alive again.
So, Nika, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too, Benji. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.